All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for attending tonight's city council meeting. We appreciate you being here. I want to remind you that this is a formal city council meeting. Please keep your cellular phones and electronic devices turned off unless authorized by state law 551.023. And remember, please refrain from talking during the meeting. If you need to have a conversation, please step outside. With that, I'm going to call this meeting to order. Please stand for the pledges. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Please have a seat. Okay, city secretary, all council members are present. Therefore, we have a quorum this evening. Proof of notice of meeting, please.
Thank you, Mayor. The notice of this meeting was posted by 2 p.m. on Friday, May 3rd.
Great. City secretary, are there any public comments?
Yes, first up, we have Candy Wyman, Ward 4, discussing information and discussion item number 8.
Okay, so Candy, come on up. Please remember that council members cannot respond to you and you have 3 minutes.
Okay, first I want to say I'm Candy Wyman. I know some of you guys from different organizations that I'm in and from work, things like that. And I want to tell you that I am a Desert Shield and Storm veteran myself. So this is not a direct attack against the VFW. But the problem is the noise that's emanating from the VFW pretty much every weekend. When they first opened up, I went over to see about joining them, and you know, things are just at the point where I'm not going to join them for various reasons. They were playing exceptionally loud music. I asked the manager, Brian Portillo, to turn the music down. His attitude was, "You're the only person who's complaining, so I'm not going to bother to do anything," even though I live a block away and this noise is literally in my living room through closed windows and closed doors. So after that, I said, okay, well, the VFW meeting, I'll go over there and I'll talk to them. So I did talk to the board and I told them all the research that I did about how they're on residential land, they're in a residential neighborhood, and they need to abide by the municipal code for residential areas. And they wanted to argue that they were commercial. Not that that matters, because even if they're a commercial entity in the residential area, they have to abide by the residential code, which is already there, and that's part of what I'm going to read. This is straight off of the website. Nighttime hours residential shall mean the hours from 10 p.m. on one day until 7 a.m. the following day for properties in the following zoning districts: R1, R2, R3, R4, and for commercial manufacturing or industrial properties, C1, C1A, C2, C2A, M1. When measured at the property line, which separates the property from any residentially zoned property, R1, R2, R3, R4, which is what I'm saying. They're in a residential area, even if they were commercial, which they're not. I mean, they may be a commercial business, but they're not on commercial land. I'm assuming they have a special use permit because I couldn't look that up. It says under the noise, plainly audible means any sound that can be detected by a person using his or her unaided hearing faculties. For example, if the sound source under investigation is a portable or personal vehicular sound amplification or reproduction of device, the enforcement officer need not determine the name of the song, the specific words, or the artist performing it. The detection of the rhythmic bass component.
All right, that was 3 minutes.
That's 3?
Yes. Okay, thank
Okay.
you. Appreciate you. All right, city secretary, do we have any other public comments?
Next up, we do have Cynthia Salas, Ward 2, speaking on information and discussion item.
Okay, come on up, Ms. Salas. Remember, council can't respond to you.
Okay, I'm Cynthia Salas. I'm in Ward 2. I am here to have a discussion on item 8, section 3. That establishment or that post was chartered in 1953. Okay? No one has ever had any issues or complaints about the activity and or functions that are happening in that property or on that property. Okay? I do have a letter from a neighbor that was there, and I'm going to read that to you, where it says that her name is Brenda Jimenez. Last week, a letter was placed on her door asking for support to have the city council adhere to the noise population coming from the VFW. My family and I have lived in the same block as with the VFW for 33 plus years. My grandfather, father-in-law, brother, uncle, and other members are veterans and veterans of war. If you want to talk about noise population, how about the noise music coming from the Old Crystal, the Skeleton Runway? The VFW has an indoor bar dance hall. The only time we hear the music is when the back door is propped open. Never has it bothered us. Actually, during the summer nights, we have enjoyed sitting outside listening to the music ourselves, if not from the VFW, but from the Crystal or the Skeleton Runway. The VFW is a nonprofit organization which it solely depends on donations from the public. I give a big thank you to Brian and Crystal Portillo for taking on the responsibility and their support given to our local veterans, men and women that sacrifice their lives for us. I ask that you, city council members, make the right decision and do not close the doors to the VFW. Thank you for your support that is not only for our local veterans, but also for the men and women that have sacrificed their lives and given us our freedom. I also want to state that adding or piggybacking off of this, there is a lot of noise that's coming from the American Legion, coming from the Crystal, coming from Skeletons, even from the Catholic Church when we have patio dances or functions out there. So it's not just the VFW that has an issue. And like I said, that building has been there since 1953, maybe even prior to that. Okay, no one in that residential area has ever had any issues with the noises coming from that building. Thank you.
Thank you. City Secretary, are there any more public comments?
That concludes public comment.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to presentations, recognitions, and proclamations. We have 3 proclamations. If Chief LaSoya and City Manager Megan Antrim would join me, please.
Proclamation by,
You can invite Gerald.
certainly.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Proclamation by Catherine East, City of Alpine Mayor. Whereas in 1962, President Kennedy proclaimed May 15th as National Peace Officers Memorial Day and the calendar week in which May 15th falls as National Police Week. Established by a joint resolution of Congress in 1962, National Police Week pays special recognition to those law enforcement officers who have lost their lives in the line of duty for the safety and protection of others. And whereas the members of the Alpine Police Department play an essential role in promoting the safety, security, and general well-being of all people, while safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the citizens and visitors of the city of Alpine. And whereas it is of the utmost importance for all citizens to recognize and understand the challenges, duties, and efforts of their police department, and that members of our police department recognize, understand, and perform their duty to serve the people of safeguarding life and property by protecting them against violence or disorder, by protecting the innocent against deception, the weak against oppression, and the vulnerable against harm. And whereas the Alpine Police Department has grown to be a progressive, professional, and responsible law enforcement agency, which unceasingly provides a vital public service at all times and in all conditions.
Now therefore, I, Catherine Eves, Mayor of the City of Alpine, Texas, on behalf of the community, do hereby recognize May 15th through May 21st, 2024 as National Police Week and call upon all citizens of the City of Alpine to join in commemorating police officers, past and present, who, by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities, have rendered a dedicated service to their communities. In witness wherefore of, I have hereunto set my hand the 7th day of May in the year 2024. I don't want to make a picture.
The next one, I need the Public Works Department, the Utilities Department to come up front, please. I know you're there, we can see.
I can see you. Come on, Mike.
Come on. Come on, Andrew.
Thank you.
Come on.
Thank you. Got it.
Proclamation by Catherine Eve, City Alpine Mayor. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Alpine. And whereas these infrastructures, facilities, and services cannot be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, employees at all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest of the citizens, civic leaders, and the children in the city of Alpine to gain knowledge of and to maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and the public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2024 marks the 64th annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association, Canadian Public Works Association.
Now therefore, I, Catherine Eve, Mayor of the City of Alpine, Texas, on behalf of the community, do hereby recognize May 19th, 2024 through 25th, 2024 as National Public Works Week in Alpine, Texas. And I urge all citizens to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and quality of life. In witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand the 7th day of May in the year 2024.
Thank you, guys.
Come on. Okay, the next one is for the Office of the Professional Municipal Court. Okay, whereas the Office of the Professional Municipal Clerk, a time-honored and vital part of our local government, exists throughout the world. And whereas the Office of the Professional Municipal Clerk is the oldest among public servants, and whereas the Office of the Professional Municipal Clerk provides the professional link between the citizens, the local governing bodies, and agencies of government at other levels. And whereas the Office of the Professional Municipal Clerk has pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal services to all. And whereas the professional municipal clerk serves as the information center on functions of local government and community. And whereas professional municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the Office of the Professional Municipal Clerk through participation in education programs, seminars, workshops, and annual meetings of their state, provincial, county, and international professional organizations. And whereas it is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishments of our municipal clerk, Jeffrey Calderon, and his clerk, Alexandria Hackett. Now therefore, I, Catherine Eves, Mayor of the City of Alpine, Texas, on behalf of the community, do hereby recognize May 5th to 11th, 2024 as Professional Municipal Clerks Week in Alpine, Texas, and I encourage all citizens to join me in this worthy observance, in witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand this 7th day of May in the year 2024.
Thank you.
Okay, reports, city mayor report. This report's kind of bittersweet. I want to thank our council members, Martine Sindate, Chris Rodriguez, and Judy Stokes, for all your dedication and service to the city. This has been a tremendous council. We have had a lot of discussions, and I feel like we have moved the city forward immensely, thanks to your help and to your input. We are not always meant to agree, and that's the beauty of this. This is what helps us move Alpine in the best direction possible. I'm gonna miss y'all, but I hope to see you sitting out there most of our meetings. Thank you. All right, city attorney report. There is not a city attorney report, city manager report.
Just a few items. Wanted to give you guys some updates on some of the things that are currently going on. I apologize if I speak fast. I do have a lengthy list. In regard to the water infrastructure, we are currently continuing to work on the lead and copper project. This is mandated by the Environmental Protection Agency as well as the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. Currently, we have sent out the participant survey. This is the second round to send out that survey. It is enclosed with the April's billing. So if you get your water bill in the mail, you should have received a lead and copper participant survey. We ask that you complete it and return it back to the city so that we can update our system to show whether or not it's unknown, it's plastic, it's copper. That way, when we report it to the state, we have this information. It is also available online. Our records clerk is pushing that news story up to the top of the page so that when you log onto the website, it's one of the first news stories that you'll see. We are asking that it be returned by May 31st so that we have the ability to get all the information into the system. We do have an October 16th, 2024 deadline with the state. The staffing has continued to maintain or go to the webinars that are being offered by different agencies to assist with this reporting. We are learning very fast that there are daily and weekly changes in how this is being handled. So every webinar that they've attended and that I've had the privilege of attending has been something new. It's been interesting. We're just trying to keep up with TCEQ's requirements. We continue to update our GIS system, which is the Geographical Information System, with all the inventory that's been brought in, not only by the field workers themselves. When we have water leaks, they record that information, and hopefully the surveys that we get from the public. The engineers are currently working on the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund application. This one is due by May 15th, so this is due next week. It is a 27-page application that goes from everything from financial to legal to engineering. Our engineering firm that we're currently utilizing, Jacob and Martin, is assisting us, as well as our current our bond legal counsel and our financial advisors. We had a meeting today to go over kind of narrowing down responsibilities. We do foresee some gaps in the application, and we're hoping that it will be a back and forth compromise with the Water Development Board to move this project forward. We've been given the limit of 6 million for this project for lead and copper inventory and replacement. We think that it will actually be reduced to quite less based on some of the information we've gotten back from the surveys. We don't have as much, but we still have a large unknown. The next item is the wastewater infrastructure update. So we currently have our engineers also working, kind of doing the for us right now. They're working on the request for proposal. They got the clarifier section, electrical, looking at the concrete work. They're currently working on the drying beds and how to update those. There's a delay in being able to complete the request for proposal because there's a delay with getting vendors to kind of help provide feedback and information. It's taken them a little bit more time. We want to make sure that when we submit this request for proposal that we provide as much information as possible. The last request we did that we modified the aerators, there was some hiccups. Our engineering firm did eat those additional costs. So this time they're trying to make sure that we have less hiccups. I will submit a formal request to City Council to designate the remaining portion of the ARPA funds to this project. Currently, we had only submitted for the first half that we had received. So this will solidify that the total amount received for this will go to this project. On the paving update, we do have a new paving team. I'm really excited. They're young and eager. Currently, they have been training on various equipment throughout the city, learning the ins and outs of what's available and what the city has. The council did approve or was provided the paving material request. So we've solidified and got that locked in. They will start out in Country Club Estates. They've been kind of just planning and foreseeing how they move forward.
Sorry about that.
Currently, the paving list includes 42.5 blocks for seal coating this year. The completion will be dependent, of course, on our weather and our staffing. Council was provided the seal coat list for 2024 earlier this fiscal year, and it will be put up on the website. The current paving map on the website is outdated, unfortunately, with the turnover in their administrative staff that has not been completed, but we will try to get that done as soon as possible. The employee compensation and classification, that is an action item later on this agenda. We did finally get the request proposal completed, submitted. We received several bids. Really excited, preparing the necessary documentation to assist with the project we've already started, so we're looking forward to that. And we'll discuss it further in the action item. The Texas Department of Transportation Mobility Planning Grant. Earlier this year, the city, in January of 23, the city had applied for a planning grant with TxDOT. We were awarded the grant. Currently, we're in the initial stages. We requested TxDOT assistance with the procuring of an engineer. The RFP process is lengthy, so we asked if they could help us. They have agreed to help us, and they already have a pre-approved engineering firm list that we'll be able to select and narrow down who helps us with the project. TxDOT has also provided the draft workshop or draft scope of work to be reviewed by the state. We're just pending the agreement to initiate the project, and the primary focus of the first year of this is about a 2-year project. The first year will be just a lot of data collection, and TxDOT's willing to help us with all of that. The last item for update is the utility billing software. I understand we continue to have issues, and I don't want the public to think that we're not working towards it. After sitting down and having some conversations, not only with some of the council members, but with the staff as well, we have actively been pursuing and moving forward, but we've had a few roadblocks or speed bumps that we've had to get through first. The first one that I call is the foundation. Unfortunately, the city's technology for quite some time has been outdated, so the first phase was updating the current computers for all the utility billing clerks. We actually only completed that this fiscal year with the replacement of the last computer. The second part of the foundation is understanding the need for continued IT support. There's a lot of questions that come up with the software and that comes up with our staff regarding like our networking and drivers, and having someone to be able to assist with that will definitely help. We're also in the middle of a data audit. The utility billing is currently working on updating accounts for accuracy. We've reviewed several, especially when we get audited by our outside auditors. Understanding that the correct services are being charged, the taxes, are they in the city limits? Are they not in the city limits? Because the city's had so much turnover in the utility billing department, we've just now really confirmed that consistency to start fully auditing and not have the project stop. We're also working with the software to address the discrepancies as reported or discovered. Most recently, the math in which the bills went out does not add correctly. Interesting conversation with the software company as how did that happen? They asked us the question and we were like, we don't know. Yeah, that's kind of your end of the deal. So as we've become aware of discrepancies, we do contact the software company immediately to figure out what happened. We've also been working with vendors and completing demos. Currently, we do keep a running list of all interested vendors. The utility billing clerk has participated in multiple demonstrations or demos of different software that's available. They've also visited with the city of Marfa to see how the new software that they implemented works, both positive and negative feedback. So we're making sure we keep up with that. Just recently, I got to visit with the Government Finance Association of Texas director. She's a former director of finance. She's worked in multiple bigger cities. I discussed with her the need for financial assistance and software with the city of Alpine. She provided me a short kind of checklist to move forward. You do have to know if you have the right technology. What type of IT assistance do you have? Are you looking for cloud-based server networking? What other components are needed? Are you looking at credit card acceptance? Data conversion is the hardest and should not be rushed. Review current issues, needs, and future wants. Once you purchase a software, you're locking yourself in for multiple years. You can't just get rid of it because it isn't an investment. Make sure to demo as many softwares as possible to get an understanding of what is actually available. Keep a set list of questions to ask each vendor that you demo. Maybe Marty might be able to assist us with when we're ready to actually go out for a request for a proposal, with providing some of that feedback from other cities. And the last thing that she mentioned, as well as two other individuals who are at the conference I was at, was do not rush, results in bigger issues.
Good. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that we're moving forward and looking at that and making sure that we make the right decision, because there is a big problem with the utility software. And I did see, no, and I did see where somebody had a bill and the total amount was less than what numbers were there. That'll be good. Councilmember Stevens?
Hot box days,
July,
July. Okay, thank you.
Good deal.
maybe.
Oh, July,
Well,
until
it
July.
was August. Now we're up to
Oh,
July.
yeah, good,
Okay.
okay, step in the right direction, good.
Good deal. Councilmember Stokes?
I'm good.
Councilmember Rodriguez? Thank you. Councilmember Nance? Councilmember Sandate? All right, thank you, city manager. There are no city staff updates. We're going to move into public hearings. I want to remind everyone that this is also a section that you will have 3 minutes that you can comment on, and council cannot respond to you. City Secretary, the public hearings will begin at 5:58, 5:59 p.m. Okay, public hearing number 1, to obtain citizen views and comments regarding the second and final reading of ordinance 2024-04-03 and ordinance amending chapter 23 city council to the Alpine Code of Ordinances, amending article 1 in general, amending article 2 rules of procedure, amending article 3 rules of decorum, amending rules, regulations, and guidelines for city council meetings and procedures, implementing an updated ethics policy. Is there anyone here to speak on this? Okay, seeing none, public hearing number 2 to obtain citizen views and comments regarding the second and final reading of ordinance 2024-04-04, an ordinance authorizing the vacation, abandonment, and sale of approximately 0.128 acres of city property, being the undeveloped alley lying between lots 1 through 10, block 71, original town site between South First and South Second Streets in the city of Alpine, Brewster County, Texas, authorizing the city manager to execute a deed without warranty, directing that funds from the sale of the city's interest be deposited in the general fund for the purpose of street improvements, providing for terms and conditions of such thereof. Anyone here to speak on this? Okay, seeing none, we're moving on to item number 3, public hearing to obtain citizen views and comments regarding the first reading of ordinance 2024-05-01, and ordinance approving rezone application 2024-04-01, amending the official zoning map of the city by rezoning the property located at 1702 East Avenue H, legally described as Thomas Derrick Addition, Block 20, lots 3 through 11, lots 15 through 20, and lots 21 and 22, located in Alpine, Brewster County, Texas, as the same appears in the map or plat records of file in the office of the county clerk of Brewster County, Texas, rezoning the subject property from R4 Mobile Home District to C1 Neighborhood Commercial District. Is there anyone here to speak on this? Okay, seeing none, moving on to public hearing number 4 to obtain citizen views and comments regarding the first reading of ordinance 2024-05-02, and ordinance approving rezone application 2024-04-02, amending the official zoning map of the city by rezoning the property located at 601 South Walker Street and legally described as lots number 3, 4, and 5, block 49, Hancock Addition, south of the railroad, to the city of Alpine, Brewster County, Texas, rezoning the subject property from R4 Mobile Home District to C1 Neighborhood Commercial District. Is there anyone here to speak on this? Okay, seeing none, we're closing public hearings at, what time is it, City Secretary?
6:02.
6:02. Moving on to the consent agenda. City Secretary?
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight's consent agenda contains 3 items. Item 1, approval of April 16th, 2024 regular meeting minutes. Item 2, approval of the excused absence of Councilor Rodriguez from the April 16th, 2024 regular city council meeting. And item 3, approval of the appointment of Heidi Wasserman to the place 6 or at large position on the hotel occupancy tax committee.
I need a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I need a second.
Second.
Okay. Let's vote. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Okay, City Secretary, the consent agenda passes unanimously with all council members approving. Okay, moving on to information or discussion items. The first one is discuss updates to the proposed revisions to the Alpine City Charter, and that one's mine. We've been looking at this for a little while now, and included in your council member packets are the things that we have looked at previously. What we have not looked at yet is with item J. So if you could look at item J. Which one, J? J is new. Okay, and with this, it's in regards to if we have a vacancy. So for example, if a single vacancy occurs with a year or less remaining on the term, council shall appoint a successor to serve until the next regular city election. If more than a year remains on the term, then an election will be held. Those wishing to be appointed must fill out the candidacy application used during regular city election filing periods, and they must be put on the next regular city council agenda, in which the paperwork meets the city secretary's packet filing deadline, as a discussion item. During the following regular city council meeting, council will make the appointment as an action item which may not occur before public comments. So that will give the opportunity for residents of that ward, or if it's the mayor, for the public at large to make comments on what the proposed candidates who are wanting to be appointed have to say when they come before the council. So I need feedback in regards to this, so I know how to move forward with this particular one. Councilmember Stevens?
I'm good.
Okay. Councilmember Sandate?
Or, good.
Okay. Councilmember Nance?
This is just requiring it to be put on as a discussion item.
Yes,
You
so
don't have
that,
to come talk or anything. Just being-
right, yeah. That way the people of the ward or the city can listen to what they have to say and give public comments in regards to who they want the council to appoint.
Sounds good.
Okay, Councilmember Rodriguez? Sounds good. Okay, Councilmember Stokes? Right. Okay, let's move on to item K. Okay, this is similar. This one, for vacancies, the Alpine, Texas City, okay, to add that if the council has to fill a vacancy, those wishing to be appointed must fill out the candidacy application used during the regular city election filing periods. And they must be put on the next city council meeting with the paperwork that meets the city secretary's deadline. And during the following, council will make the appointment. So this is different because this is for 2 or more vacancies. Currently in our charter, they separate it into the single vacancy, and then it is separated into 2 or more. So that's what the difference is. If 2 or more vacancies shall occur at one time, and a special election cannot be held because the vacancies occur more than 120 days preceding a general city election, or in the event that the state law prohibits a special election, the council shall appoint a candidate who has completed. And this is where it's different. In the current charter, there's no specifications. It just says council will appoint a candidate. And I have added in the same thing that we were saying, who has completed the election packet application used for regular elections. And then we will appoint the successor after public comments have been made, after the candidates, potential appointees have appeared as a discussion item at a regular city council meeting. Okay, so that's if a special election shall not be held. That's the only thing I did to that item in the charter, was add that we would have procedures on the appointment. Okay, Councilmember Stevens?
I'm okay.
Okay, Councilmember
Okay.
Sandaki? Councilmember Nance?
Sounds good.
Councilmember Rodriguez? Councilmember Stokes?
Thanks for packing all of that.
Thank you. Okay. All right. And if you look at the last page, things that I have not typed up, because it takes quite a bit of time to type that up. It does. So on the meetings, there's a portion in the charter that says that we'll hold 2 meetings per month, except in December. And from experience, since I have been here, we haven't had a November meeting because it's usually the week of Thanksgiving and we can't make a quorum. And we're violating the charter by not having the 2 meetings in November. So I was wanting to know, does council think that we need to put that in the charter, that we would have 2 meetings per month except November if the 3rd Tuesday of the month falls during the week of December, or during the week of Thanksgiving, and then also December? So currently we only have 1 meeting in December for the charter. Per the charter, we're supposed to have 2 in November. Is it necessary to type up and have a proposition to say that we will have 1 in November if it's the 3rd Tuesday of the week of Thanksgiving?
Look at me first.
Okay. I was just gonna change it
I
up.
don't care.
Councilmember Stevens.
My view is we ought to have the meeting in November regardless.
So far, we haven't.
I don't mind. I didn't have that problem. My view is we ought to have a meeting.
Okay, Councilmember Sandate.
Every in November. I
Councilmember,
I stay here in November, I don't go out to Christmas.
Oh, okay, yeah. Councilmember Nance?
I guess I would ask Tio and Megan, does it really matter? Like if we violate the charter and we don't have 2 meetings in a month? Or, I mean, we call special meetings and everything else? I mean,
Well, so council did approve the calendar for the council meetings. And we outlined all of the meetings and when the dates are. So ultimately, you guys chose whether or not to have meetings. For us, if we wanted to meet the week of Thanksgiving, and technically we do work Tuesdays.
see, this is just formalizing that meeting if it was to occur. The expectation is to have those meetings in November and December. And this is formalizing them to not occur.
It would formalize the Thanksgiving. December is already set in the charter, the Thanksgiving is. But this year we did have council approve meeting.
I mean,
And if we don't make quorum, are we violating the charter? Okay,
And if we're setting the calendar, that
And so that's why we
We
did the
okay the
calendar,
calendar.
because everyone's schedule and having those conversations, but. I mean, yes, if you look at it from a black and white perspective, you should have the 2 meetings in November. But you do have multiple meetings throughout the whole
like all summer.
time.
Yeah,
All of them.
all summer.
I'm more for keeping it a little bit broader. Because that's easy to fix, like doing the calendar and all that, than putting ourselves into something where we're.
And maybe the whole section needs to be written that the council by resolution sets the meetings.
Do we need that? And I mean, if we don't have the quorum, then we're not violating the charter and it really doesn't matter, right? So do we really need to type it up?
No, you could leave it. You don't.
Just
even
leave it
have to
alone?
say that.
One less thing to type up, Councilmember Stokes? Okay, so everybody's okay with scratching that one?
oh, it's drafted.
Yes. Okay. All right, good deal. All right, and then section 3.07. We just haven't formalized in the charter what counts as a quorum because when the charter was written, we didn't have the online Zoom option. And so this one is just to say that council members who are online will count as being present as far as accounting goes, but they do not count as part of the quorum.
So why don't we count as part?
Why would
State law.
get on Zoom if we're not gonna be counted?
But you counted as present, but
So if state law precludes from count, you have to be here to be quorum,
mhm.
then why do we need to change anything? We have a long list. We're gonna
Right.
ask all the voters to go through a list of
I know.
probably a dozen and a half
20,
items.
yeah, 20,
I'm just looking at saying if it's a non-issue, it's a non-issue.
right.
I get your point why you want to add it, but my view is.
Yeah, because you still count as being present.
Yeah.
But is that something that we need to actually type up in the charter?
I would say no, only because state law is gonna supersede our charter.
Yeah. But we're still present,
Yeah.
basically. And the
So
state
that's-
law says that, correct? That if you're online, you're present, but you
But
don't
you're
count.
not.
Okay. And so I'm all for not having to type that one up too, if council agrees.
I agree.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is true.
Okay, thank you. Alessandra is from our law firm. Thank you. Okay, so let's cross that one out. All right, I like the way this is going. Okay, so I don't know if we need clarification on this one or not, but currently in the city charter, it states that neither the council nor any of its members shall instruct or request the city manager or any of the city manager's subordinates to appoint or to remove from office or employment any person except with respect to those offices which are to be filled by appointment by the council under the provision of the charter. The second part, which sometimes gets a little blurry, I guess, except for the purpose of inquiry and investigation as otherwise expressly provided in this charter, the council shall deal with the administrative services of the city solely through the city manager and shall not give orders to any of the city manager's subordinates, either publicly or privately, except with the city manager's specific approval. So council can talk to the employees and ask questions as far as investigation, but they cannot tell an employee to go do something. We can't instruct Daryl to go do something. We can't instruct, yeah. Rob to go do something, we can't instruct. Is that clear enough for council and for administration, or do we need to rewrite that for clarity? That's my question here on whether I need to take the time to rewrite that.
This is what it says right now. What I'm looking at, or what you read.
Let's see. Yeah,
'Cause
what
I
I
think we all
read.
get it. I think we all understand.
Right.
I wouldn't.
Okay, so does
No, no,
anybody
no.
feel like we need clarity? If so, speak up. If not, I'm scratching this one. No, city manager, city secretary? Okay, good.
We've all got it.
All right. Okay, now section 404. This issue has been brought up in the past, and I thought we might need to clarify. Right now, it's written in the charter attorney, and that left for some ambiguity for some individuals on whether we could have a law firm represent us or if it had to be a single attorney. And we know with working with our law firm that it is okay to have the law firm. Do we need to specify that in the charter so that it's clear to the public that a law firm is okay? So in rewriting this one, it would be to attorney or law firm instead of just attorney.
I don't think it hurts that. It's just a simple, I call it clerical update.
Okay. Councilmember Stevens. Councilmember Sedate. Councilmember Nance.
And I would add it, or is it legal representation, or what is required?
Yeah, what would you?
Law
want?
firm, legal representation,
So
attorney?
I would say, it's very common to have like a city attorney, a deputy city attorney, so I would be like a city attorney or their delegate is basically, if you all wanted to update the charter to do that, that's the language that I would include. And that's, how almost every city runs. There is a city attorney and city delegates or city attorneys, plural.
And this isn't the first time we've had a law. We've
Yep.
had a law.
Correct.
Right, right. It just recently came up. So that's why I was thinking, do we need to make sure
Recently
that,
challenged.
yeah, that the public is clear that it can be a law firm? Councilmember Nance,
That's good.
Councilmember Rodriguez, Councilmember Stokes, City Secretary, City Manager.
Hello.
So it would go in 404A, the city council shall appoint an attorney.
Or Alice, Alice,
Licensed to practice in the state of Texas.
I'm sorry. So it could be, I don't, so I would say, that the city council has an opportunity to appoint a law firm, to appoint a city attorney that through a law firm also has deputy city attorneys.
Alessandra, would you mind putting your camera on when you talk so everyone can see you?
Yes, of course, no worries. Hold on.
It's a black screen.
yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay, hold on. Let me get that going.
Thank you.
Okay.
And once again, she's with our law firm.
My suggestion is have Alessandra rewrite that
Was
paragraph.
to send it to Megan, and
Right.
Megan can send it to me
That works.
before I
Yeah.
write all that.
That way you get it.
Yeah, because that's a
Great.
lot. to write.
Okay.
It's about an hour each one. Okay. Sure. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. So Alessandra, I don't know if you heard, we were hoping that you would type up what language you think we should use and send it to Megan
Yes,
via email, and then she can. send-
absolutely.
Okay,
Just
Thank-
taking those notes and then getting my camera ready.
sure.
I will
You're
see you soon.
fine. Take your time. All right, and so the next one, section 4.05, if council decides to move forward with members having 3-year terms, we would need to rewrite this section so that it says that the municipal court judge also has the same term as what the mayor is. One of the responsibilities of whoever is in the mayor position is to find a municipal court judge to recommend to council for approval. And that judge runs concurrently with the mayor's term.
Does it say right now that it runs concurrent with yours? So why not leave it that way, whatever it does?
It says 2 years.
So
though.
why not strike for the term of 2 years and leave it
Concurrent.
and approved by the city council for a term to run concurrently with the term of the office of the mayor. That way you just take it out, you resolve the issue, never have to touch it again.
Okay, so just strike 3 years,
No,
just put
yes.
judge runs concurrently.
With the mayor.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay. All right, sounds good to me. I think it's currently 2
It
years.
does say
Okay.
2, but that way you don't have to worry about it again.
Okay, so we'll rewrite that. All right, section 5.04 budget. City council members and the mayor must complete a budget worksheet and taxation worksheet prepared by and sent out at least 4 weeks before the deadline by the city manager. We all know that we get this budget worksheet and stuff where the city manager's trying to feel where our thoughts are in regards to taxation and budget. And this just says that we will have this at least 4 weeks before the deadline so that all of council has opportunity and time to complete that, and that we must complete it. This year, council was phenomenal. Everybody, or I guess last year, has completed what they were asked to complete, including the reviews, the evaluations of the city secretary and the city manager. I believe the city worksheet was completed by everybody, the taxation. So we
You
did,
guys don't prepare the taxation.
well, right, but you send out a worksheet where you're asking us
So I
what
sent
our
out-
thoughts are
I
on
send out
those
the
issues.
budget questionnaire. My only concern is like, so you haven't received it so far this year because of the big turnover in council.
Right,
So it's not beneficial to the city and to myself to send it out and have you guys who are on council. And then literally next week it changes.
right.
So I don't know if we want to just reconstruct the wording for the last, at least 4 weeks before the deadline. Because I don't give you that long to do it either. I give you like-
it doesn't take 4 weeks.
I give you usually a week to 2 weeks. I know Rick and Darren this past year, they had, I think, 2 days.
Yep.
They had a few days.
Right,
And that's only because, like I said, because of the elections and the timing of the budget. If we start the budget earlier, then halfway or a month into it, it may possibly switch and change.
because of new council
Yes.
members.
I think that's just one of the duties of being on council, and I don't know why we're just zooming in on that one. I mean, it just needs to be done, and if it's not, well, that person doesn't have a voice, but once again, I think it was just kind of putting stuff in there.
I agree with Chris. Penalty is not giving feedback to the budget, so your representation isn't there.
For your residents.
I think it's not needed.
Councilmember Sandate,
Happy,
Councilmember Stevens,
I agree. I would.
Councilmember, okay, good, okay. Which one was that? Good. All right, and then council earlier said that they wanted to keep the word ward. And throughout the charter, it's used interchangeably. And so section 7.08, the only thing there to change is it says district instead of ward.
Can we not do something at the beginning where we changed it from district to ward to say that any, does that include, could it be worded that any change of the word ward would be changed to district, or do we have to actually every place that it shows up on be a different?
That's actually a question for Alessandra.
We just had a technical issue. She's coming back online right now.
Okay. Yeah.
Every city that I've been trying or that I have been reaching out to,
There she is.
they didn't do like a cleanup like that. So I don't have anyone to reference.
She's back.
Alessandra,
I think we should ask, that way we don't
if we could
have all of
a
this stuff in the
blanket-
public to have to,
a
right?
blanket proposition
Like
that.
at the very beginning where you say they shall be called this.
I'll ask.
Okay, please. And then let me know. So I won't work on typing that one up until we hear back, because there are a lot of them. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 right there in a row.
Yep.
And then that's more for the public to have to look at in the election. All right, and then Megan's gonna work, earlier she'd said if the ETJ needs a proposition, and if so, she said it would be inserted near Proposition C.
No, we're good. The
So we
way-
can scratch
yeah,
that.
The way it's currently written,
Okay.
it covers our basics for the annexation and disannexation. and-
Okay, and if we're going for 3-year cycles for the positions, Megan had suggested for the election year 2025, it'd be for wards 1 and 3, 2026 for mayor and 5, and 2027 for 2 and 4. So there would still be an election every year where the residents have the opportunity to vote if they are in that particular ward, and then also for the mayor. What are your thoughts on that suggestion from Megan? Councilmember
My
Stevens?
struggle is the anemic voter turnout for this last election. I'm almost inclined to say everyone goes every 2 years to be done with it. I mean, it's doggone frustrating to see what went on in this last election cycle. No one showed up. So I'm happy with the 3-year terms. It's just, oh my gosh, we gotta figure out how to get people to vote.
Councilmember Sandate?
3-year term.
Councilmember Nance?
I'm good, 2 or 3. The one question I would have for Megan would be, so then this would go out to voters to change the charter in November, which would mean who would, then anyone that's running in that following May would be the ones that would start those 3-year terms, 4-year terms, whatever it is. So that would be the upcoming Mr. Stevens, myself. And one.
But so we would be changing the whole cycle. So in 2025, Stevens wouldn't actually run. Might have to map this out.
Okay.
It would be 1 and 3. So I know a couple other cities who've changed their schedule have had additional information within the charter that outline year 1, year 2, year 3 to switch their terms. So I'll have to go back and try to find one of those.
I mean, if you do have, it makes an election worth it more if you got, 3 people running instead of 2, for the cost of doing the election. Thank you, Gio, for putting the election on. And
I don't
be-
think people realize how much these elections cost. What was the cost on this?
I haven't totaled it yet, but I'm sure it's been at least 6,000 so far, if not more.
So the biggest expense is our election workers, and then we have to prepare X amount of ballots, and that's a cost as well. So when we have very low voter turnout, we waste a lot of not only material, but money on additional ballots we can't use.
Councilmember Rodriguez?
Either one, I agree with Rick that it's kind of sad the voter turnout we had. What's even worse is that people don't want to take the responsibility of running. I mean, it's just one or the other.
If you also see, when you have a May election, you run the actual election day, Cinco de Mayo. And I love Cinco.
It was May the 4th.
Whatever.
It was the celebrations
It,
though.
if people don't get there early, you're not gonna have a turnout that Saturday. I mean, you're just not. I think they have more than I thought they would have. And there's no way to get around that. I do think though, you're splitting it up with 2 and 2 and 2, and that, I don't know, it's gonna be more expensive to do it that way.
And we can reconfigure it. I mean, we're just trying to think of the best way
I know,
to get it initiated.
Right.
because it's gotta start somewhere. If you're gonna do
So
it, you
you-
gotta start somewhere.
Are you gonna look at the reconfiguration or, okay,
And I
and
would
so we'll
say-
just leave that for Megan.
I'm perfectly fine with 2-year. Like,
Darren too.
I mean, that forces us to go out and ask people if they want us to sit in the seat. Doesn't bother me.
And here's what's gonna happen. Do those go on as one vote? Because if not, you're gonna have people saying, well, let's do 1 and 3 every 3 years, and then let's do 2 and 4 every, and
It would be
it would be one. Because people are not gonna read this. I mean, I know you think they are. They're not. They're gonna get bored way, way, way up here.
So
And they're,
then,
and if they do answer, you just don't know what you're gonna get out of those 14 people that are up there voting.
so then I think the bigger question is, for me, the idea of a longer term was, you know, the first year you're new, the second year you're learning, the third year you're implementing. I kind of have the feedback right now from council that you would prefer maybe just to stick with the two. Do we want to stick with the two and consider making this change down the road, or just stick with the two and not make a change at all? I don't want Catherine and I to put in the extra work if we really don't want to go that direction.
I'd say stay with the two.
So my question to you is, we're gonna have a new council next week. So do we just put it on hold? What do we do?
We can bring it back up.
All right, okay. And that concludes that. That was a long discussion.
Really?
Oh my gosh.
Oh my
Yes. Okay, and the rest are just my notes and things that the council can look at. All right, so moving on to discussion item number 2. This is Councilmember Stevens.
So this is gonna be a tandem between myself and the mayor. Just a little bit of background. 6 years ago, TxDOT initiated 3 studies. It was a Texas-wide transportation study. They did a mobility study, and they also did a 6790 study. So that was 6 years ago. Came out of the reports. You can go to TxDOT.org and see that all online. What has followed out of that are 2 specific activities that are underway. What's listed here, and I provided the handout to council, was the TxDOT Union Pacific Railroad Bridge Study. That meeting was held on April 18th. And it was the opportunity for TxDOT to come back to a number of constituents, closed group, about their recommendations for what to do with the Union Pacific crossing that goes over 6790 that the trucks run into. So I gave you all the data for that. My bottom line is they recommended a short-term plan, a midterm plan, and a long-term plan. That's what came out of it, and the recommendation was a super short midterm plan, and the short-term plan, midterm plan, long-term plan. Super short midterm plan is immediately for TxDOT, and the local TxDOT folks are gonna go off and work that, putting in a quick turnaround for trucks to give them early warning if they're gonna be too high to go through the 13 feet, 7-inch under the railroad bridge crossing. Second is, we'll take the short term then, which is the next one, and they're gonna put rumble strips on the road and everything else to kind of wake up the drivers. Come on, wake up, look at the sign. You may take off the top of your truck, or if you're driving an RV, you may take off the top of your air conditioner. Then there's a 2-year plan, which is called the short-term plan. They would put lasers just outside of Marfa and lasers on just before the railroad bridge to indicate if your truck is too high, 13 feet, 7 inches. You get the flashing lights, rumble strips and all that stuff, and a turnaround point for the trucks to turn around. So it started all the way back just outside of Marfa. First warning, second warning is before you hit the railroad bridge, you'll turn back around. The midterm plan is longer, and a lot of discussion is it 6 years, 8 years, could be 10 years. And that is to look at, there were 2 options under consider. Do you dig down, go underneath the bridge to make it wider? Then making it wider is 2 lanes each direction, plus sidewalk, plus bicycle lane. The cost to do that, about $60 million.
That it?
Okay, 60 million, okay? The other alternative is go up over the top, okay? The opportunity to go up over the top is $40 million. So it's cheaper to go over the top than it is to go underneath. So that their preliminary thought is they consider going over the top. It would end up putting a roundabout also right there at 1703. Make traffic a little bit easier to work their way through and be a lot more flexible there. That's the,
What was their timeframe on
that's kind of 6 to 8 years.
going over?
Yeah,
That part, to
yeah,
build over.
To build it over the pass, yeah. Because they got to go through the engineering work, get funding for it and everything else. They've got a number of additional actions to take place.
You also, if we go over, have to consider we have to move
That's correct. They got utilities, they got a number of things to work. That's why it's kind of the realistically 6 to 8, probably 10. Okay. The long-term plan is a $240 million. And that would be a loop on the north of A Mountain or go south of the city. Okay, and it's a $250 million to go figure that out. And they got land rights to work and all sorts of things. The feedback they got was proceed on with the super short and the short term, and then start doing the planning for the midterm. The study team that TxDOT has working that is basically their money has run out at this point. They got to get a recontract put in place. As soon as they get the contract put back in place, they will then go put more details behind those plans and then get a much larger group together, including members of the community, to be able to have those discussions. So that's the result of what's going on there. The other item I had the opportunity to attend to, and this is the tag team between the mayor and myself, was the discussion about the US 90 corridor study. US 90 goes from Van Horn all the way to Louisiana border. Okay, they've broken that into 4 sections. Judge Hennington is the chair of the study. We met over in the library, and we actually went through 23 specific proposals that are part of from Van Horn all the way, that's in the western sector, up to the mid sector, and gave recommendations back to TxDOT. They included, for example, continued work for those of us who have driven up through 90 to get to US 10, some additional modifications there. And I said they went all the way to the eastern side, and we labeled them red, yellow, green, and blue. Red was go do it now. Yellow, you got a few years. Green, you got a lot more time. And blue, hey, it'll happen sometimes, someone's lifetime. I used that as an opportunity to raise the point about what was done 6 years ago about the challenges we have in Alpine with all of the intersections that go through town from the time you start the railroad bridge till you get to the Y. And said, hey gang, it'd really be nice if you spent a little bit of time coming back to us, because while they're all part of 90, the 67 study already wanted to get that stuff moving along. So the local TxDOT folks are involved, Armando and Don and Anthony, and we expect they'll come back with some additional recommendations, but that's kind of the activity that we had going on. So really worthwhile sessions. It's part of why my view is we have the ability to influence what TxDOT is doing. There's an example of that because we have a judge and I, Judge Portillo, and Chris Evans were there as well, all weighed in on what those recommendations would be. Questions?
That's good.
Additional comments?
That's perfect.
It's a start.
Yeah, it's a start.
You gotta start somewhere.
Gotta start somewhere. So that's all I got.
Any other comments? All right, thank you, Councilmember Stevens. All right, moving on to discussion item number 3. This belongs to Martin Sandate.
Okay, we have discussed the noise ordinance and disturbances in Ward 4, including disturbances in the residential area by the veteran of Foreign Wars establishment.
Okay. All right, and do you have somebody that,
I guess they did public comments. I want to get this some discussion items.
okay, all right. And what are your thoughts, Councilmember Sandate?
But like, I'm not a member of the VFW, but I do go to that establishment, and I don't go on Saturdays when the dances are going on, you know.
Right.
Yeah, you did.
Okay. Chief, did you have some comments in regards to that you wanted to come? Okay, why not?
So the police department has had 5 or 6 complaints. Some from Ms. Wyman, who spoke earlier, and we had one that was anonymous. Some of the complaints that we're receiving, the music is reaching the ordinance violation, but it's not going above it. There's other times when the officer gets there and there's no noise, and so There's no test done, but they do document that they have no noise. I do understand where Ms. Wyman's coming from, living right next door to the establishment. Maybe it might be something that we do a little study on and go from there, and maybe later on look at lowering the decibel readings as far as non-live music as per our ordinance. And but there's a lot of things that we need to look at. But I do understand where she's coming from, living right next door. But
Gerald, you said that APD had received 5 to 6 and 5 have been from Ms. Wyman.
I believe so.
So basically we have one person that's.
Yes, ma'am.
I
Yes.
had a call. Carried any further, and
Yeah.
it wasn't the normal hours. They run over, that's when I was getting calls, and people were like, weren't they supposed to shut it down? No, and once you talk to them and they vent a little bit, they don't want the VFW shut down.
Right.
They want it when they're doing it to stop it, and a lot of I had 4 calls over the motorcycles that sit out there running.
Mhm.
And when you're in that neighborhood and it's there, it's loud. And when they start them up at 12:30 at night and they sit there till 1:30 running, it's loud.
Yeah.
So, like I say, I didn't have enough that anybody wanted to complain. They didn't want to shut it down. They just wanted to vent a little bit.
Yes, ma'am.
They didn't want to call you. They don't want you down there doing anything.
Yes,
They
ma'am.
just want them to turn the bikes off, turn it down after about 2 o'clock. I mean, and I can understand that. If that was
What-
by my house, I'd say the same thing.
And that's one of the things too, that I did notice. I believe one was done, one complaint came in after 2 in. I can understand that. All establishments should be shutting down at 2 o'clock. And so,
And like I
that's,
say, I don't want it shut down.
yeah. Yeah, but after 2 o'clock, it needs to be closed.
Half the evening,
Right,
ready to go to bed. It was about 2:15.
right.
I said, we could have called you. No, don't call me, wake me up at 2:15. But it's never been enough that anybody wants them shut down.
Right.
They just want them to watch those hours. Like I say, I don't think that when you're in that Legion and 18 motorcycles start sitting in the middle of the street, it's loud.
Yes, ma'am.
So that was one, I had like I say, about 4 different people call me over those bikes.
Right.
Are you referring to the VFW or the American Legion?
I'm referring to the Legion and the
And
PFW
both,
because
okay.
they sit over there too.
Yeah, we had the motorcycle rallies.
Let me remind you that it needs to be quiet, please.
When we have the motorcycle rallies show up, we do have,
And it's loud anywhere. It's loud when they're sitting at the Crystal. It's loud when they're sitting at Ryan's.
Right.
It's gonna be,
yes, ma'am.
and most people get it. So we're not saying you don't have a legitimate right, but it's probably not gonna shut anybody down.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just not. There's not enough, there's just not enough people that are gonna go against it. That's just my opinion.
Understood.
Can I have a question for the bar manager.
Sure, yeah.
Can you come on up, please? Yeah. And please just introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Brian Portillo, manager of the VFW. My wife and I taken over, I think, a little over 2 months now that we've been at the establishment, VFW.
Have you had any further complaints except from Ms. Wyman?
No, ma'am, to be honest with you, no, we haven't had any complaints. We try to stay within the compliance of the decibel readings, and we've had some of the local PD come up and I've asked them. They said that we're below the decibel readings.
Do you make every attempt to shut the bar down at 2? And would it be a fair statement to say that it does take you a while to empty out the establishment and get your patrons out?
Yes, ma'am. We do have people that do come in. Music is shut down at 2 o'clock. If it's ever ran over, we make sure we shut it down. But at the end of the night, when you have people, and this isn't every bar, everybody's gonna be drinking, and you're gonna have some belligerent drunks, stuff like that. But it's hard to get them out, and I have called a couple guys that help me get them out. Because my wife and I are tired too, so we're trying to get home. We don't want to be there any later than then we have to. We were there, to just kind of give a place to everybody for the veterans, keep it open and a place for family and friends to come out and enjoy themselves. And we have, benefits or things that are going on for certain people in the town that need assistance, we're always there for them and, we'll do whatever we have to do to help them out.
Would you agree that the bar is the main source of income for the VFW and what is keeping the doors open for the veterans?
As far as I know, I mean, yes, it is, because I think it's nonprofit organization. And the money that we bring in, helps out with the veterans, with the bills being paid there. And, they make a little bit of money. It's not to get anybody rich or anything like that. But,
Right,
you
but
know.
that's what keeps them able
Yes.
to keep the building open and to be able to be opened up for their meetings and for veterans.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Nance.
I guess I have a question for Megan. Then how did this happen as far as a bar getting open in R2?
This was grandfathered. This was way before, as you heard Ms. Salas mention, this facility's been. in the city
1953.
since-
And so,
And it's a government. It's falls, just like the league.
and the Legion's in a C1 or C2, right? Is this the only one that we know that's an actual commercial establishment or, I guess NPO, whatever, that's in an R zone?
That I'm aware of.
Being
It's like,
a-
it's kind of, if you look at like our schools, some of our schools are in residential zones. Some of our city facilities are in residential zones. They've just been exempt from different. This one was grandfathered.
So it's exempt from being zoned.
It's just part of the art.
R2,
R2.
which that's kind of where my question lies. And if you go a little north of that, because we see some of the other P and Z things, there's an R4 that's going to be trying to become a C1 or C2 or something. And then over there near the picnic, if you look catty corner to that, that looks like a residential block that is entirely C2 as well. Pink area in our zoning map, northeast of picnic, just under Skelton's.
Aguilar's, perhaps.
Is that a whole city block then of houses that looks like that's actually C2? So I guess that's where,
Behind the charity thrift, the new thrift store.
gotcha, okay. When I looked at it, I saw houses and stuff, so I guess where my mind goes is I want everyone to be happy, but is there anything that can be resolved when P and Z comes in and looks at some of these things, or?
So the main thing when we're looking at the zoning that the city needs to really sit down and focus on is putting together a comprehensive plan to address how the city wants to designate the different areas. And then planning and zoning, also having that conversation with the city could go in and rezone them, which we think happened in 2013 when the new zoning map was adopted. Because there's properties that the people have prior, hey, I was zoned a commercial, but your zoning map now shows I'm a residential. Putting together a comprehensive plan or just a plan in general that kind of outlines the direction the city wants to go, you would have to notify everyone within these blocks about the changes. And then you'd have to take into consider the history of those facilities. The VFW has been there longer than us. And so that's why some of these are oddballs, because they've been grandfathered or it hasn't been changed because of whatever establishment was on that property.
And it seems like it would be easier if that was grandfathered in and it was a VFW back in the day, selling or anything else like that. I don't understand why it was brought in as a R, because that would be the complaint, in my opinion, is that if you live in that area, your expectation is that it's a residential zone. When even from 1953, it was probably a commercial area. It should have been, brought in as a commercial area. Because then they're going to abide by all the stuff we talk about, spot zoning and everything else. It wouldn't have been spot zone. Then things could have grown out of that area in commercial enterprises by abutting it. So I think where my mind doesn't work is that that's a R2, but it's treated as a commercial establishment.
And it's unfortunate, whatever happened in 2013 when they approved that zoning map, it kind of put that structure in place where you had these pockets and then you had everything else rezoned. I know Gio's looked into it. I've looked into it. We're trying to update the zoning map, which we've given you guys draft copies of it. But the city could make a massive push to do a comprehensive plan and then go in and clean up the zoning and make sure that everyone's notified and that you do take consideration what is currently established on those properties.
Ms. Wyman, what year did you purchase your home?
Last year.
So
They
you-
were still closed.
So you were aware though that you were purchasing right next door to a bar,
It was closed at that point.
but there was always the possibility that it could open. You were aware that there was a bar in that area.
And that doesn't change the fact that they even said, you know, the other lady sits in her backyard and listens to the music.
I'm not arguing, I'm not,
Okay,
I'm not
So
arguing.
you could be at the podium and
Yes.
have a conversation.
Yeah.
So it's obviously too
Okay.
loud.
all right, we're gonna stop this discussion. We can come back to it. Councilmember Stevens?
So I'm just a dumb old Marine and I happen to read stuff, okay? And I'm a Marine from a long time ago. I'm just reading our ordinance, which was put in place in December of 2022. And part of what I'm hearing this discussion back and forth, according to our ordinance, R1, R2, R3, R4, says 10 PM to 7 AM. And nighttime hours residential is 55 decibels. So what I think I'm hearing, Chief, we're not holding them to that standard. Is that what I'm hearing?
Come back up to the podium, Chief, please.
You know, we're not holding them to that standard. 55 decibels. I mean, I'm just reading the ordinance section 26-62.
But Megan, aren't they like the Legion to where they don't have, where they're grandfathered in?
No.
Where they don't, they're not
really.
actually residential?
So. Yes, they're in a residential zone, but they're operating as.
So then they don't have to go by the residential, right? Because isn't that what we were told about the American Legion before?
Well, I don't know if we put the exemption in there
Not in there.
for specifically that. The permitting, the noise ordinance also is aimed at live music venues. Because we are a friendly music.
Okay,
So there's a lot that goes into the ordinance. One, like city manager was explaining, was if it's live music, their readings can be higher. And if they also the establishment has to have a live music permit in order for that. The other thing is the location as far as residential and the or if it's commercial and the hours as well. And so the 55 that Mr. Stevens, we have one test that it came in at 55. So if we tell them, hey, you're close to violating the ordinance. And if it goes above the 56, then they're in violation.
It also says there's not to be any volume enhanced by any electronic, mechanical, or other means. So if it's without music, without electronics, you're legal. If it is with electronics, that is a violation according to the ordinance.
Right.
So,
Like I was explaining, there's a lot that goes into it. And so,
yeah.
yeah.
We clearly have a situation where the place was closed, residents buy property, it then gets opened back up, and it gets opened back up as a bar. That's the fundamental issue, and our document doesn't cover any of that. And so it's very clear why we have this disparity going on.
Well, I agree with a lot of that, except that I think you said it opened up as a bar. It was always a bar. So to me, there was always the expectation. And I think what we need to decide before we go on any further is exactly what does it fall and what regulations does it have to abide by if it falls under the same thing as the Legion. Because like I said, when we spoke before about the Legion, if I'm not mistaken, it was decided that they were grandfathered in and they didn't fall into these.
So I hear all that, and I wasn't on council when the noise ordinance put in place. I'm just reading, there are no provisions in our ordinance that cover that. That's the phrase. I'm not arguing one way or the other. All I'm doing is just reading the ordinance. And I think we have an issue where residents are coming forward. An issue, residents say it's not an issue. We establish what it is, R1, R2, R3, R4, and we also establish for commercial. And we're saying they can go till 2 o'clock in the morning. That's not what our ordinance says.
So what was that condition, Megan, that you said that existed that allowed the American Legion to bypass all this other stuff? There was something that you had told us existed that gave them the right to exist without all of the other stuff, like the machines and all of that. What was that?
So on the gambling, the game room stuff. I can't remember the specifics.
Well, that was just an example, but do you remember that there was some, when one of our conversation that it allowed them to go because they were, because of what they were, government type thing?
My sense is it would be under the official Alpine Music Venue Program. That is the one area, section 26-65, that talks about must qualify to meet the criteria. There's a whole bunch of criteria. Gotta have physical location, we're gonna hold live music, promote their events by announcing them, pay musicians. Business meet the criteria, can apply without the requirements for an application, no fee charge. Boom, 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 boom. My sense is that's what's going on.
Mr. Lasoya,
Yes, sir.
quick question for you. So do we know, I didn't read this, is there a difference between noise ordinance for C1, C2 and residential? Do you see that there's a residential
Yes.
markup? So I think American Legion is C1 or C2. I see Skeletons is a C1, Crystal's a C2.
They have different levels.
So
Yes.
I'm assuming that's why the Legion,
Yes,
because it's
that's,
actual commercial property.
so that's one of the, that's like, and I said as well, there are also a live music, the American Legion has a live music venue,
Yep.
is a live music venue. And when they have live bands, it changes for them.
Yeah, same with Crystal.
Yeah.
But to your point, the ordinance specifically says 65 dB during nighttime hours, commercial. Okay?
Yeah.
75 dB during evening hours, commercial or evening hours, depending upon what's going on, then 85 during daytime hours. So, yeah, it's, my sense is the American Legion is it's a music venue
Yes.
and they're commercial. That
Yeah.
makes a difference.
And I have a list that I should have brought, but I have a list of all the establishments that have a live music venue permit.
Well, and does this have one?
No,
VFW does
well, they're not live music. They're all DJ.
So they're all DJ,
Yes, sir.
which then would follow under the electronically,
The lower.
which is the lower level of 55 dB.
But they've never been past 55.
But I have, information I have documented shows that the highest that they were at was a 55.
So
Again, that's still pretty loud. So, but it didn't violate the ordinance.
So council, are we looking at needing to redo the ordinance? Is the ordinance sufficient? What
we
do
just
you
put-
see?
We just put quite a bit of work on that noise ordinance. I mean, that noise ordinance is new. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not over, what, 6 months?
December 2022?
Yeah. It's been a
It's a
while.
year.
A year?
Councilmember Stevens?
But it says outdoor amplified sound is prohibited from 10 PM on any day until 7 AM in R1, R2, R3, R1. So it's amplified.
So the thing is that it's an actual indoor. The bad thing is that they're opening their doors.
They kept the doors closed, a lot easier, isn't it?
Yes, sir. That's one of the things that the Railroad Blues has. Yeah, and it's funny because we do get complaints on them when they do open their bay doors up there at the Railroad Blues. We do get complaints on them. But most of the time their bay doors are closed and we don't get any complaints. Yeah.
City manager?
I was just gonna say the VFW is not an outdoor. They don't have currently the means to be outdoors. Everything they do is within.
Councilmember Stokes? Okay. Councilmember Sandate?
They ain't got no stage, no bands, it's inside, so just keep the doors closed. Maybe keep the noise down.
Councilmember Nance?
I think that when we look at ordinances, last thing I want Chief Lasoya to have to do is be flexible. And I'm like, I think council, when we talk about short-term rentals, we're writing the short-term rental ordinances so that we can make a fair play field for everybody. And when somebody does something wrong, we say, this is what it is, I apologize. That's just the nature of the rules that council created. So I think going back and looking at the noise ordinance and stuff, I think what we unfortunately have is a, commercial establishment that's zoned into R2. Well, I understand what you're saying, Candy, with that. It just, I think a lot of that falls on us. We grandfathered that in as R2, and now we have the hard thing of like spot zoning and everything else. I don't really,
and one of the things I was thinking about when you were talking a while ago about spot zoning, on the south side, we had, back in the day when I first started, we had the Flamingo, we had the Chaparral, we had the Outback, we had the BFW, El Apache, the Toltec, and we had a lot of places on the south side. But basically, we would go from call to call from these establishments. Also on the north side as well, but we used to say we had more bars and churches back then. But it's unfortunately that's one of the things that we have to deal with, and just to make sure that y'all understand, we will abide by the ordinance and we will do what we need to do. So.
Thank you.
The one item, setting aside from music, bikes, motorcycles. Okay, what I heard was motorcycles are out there, hopping on, sitting out there for an hour or whatever. It says the use of any motor vehicle so that it creates any loud and unreasonable or unusual sound which is heard above other vehicles at a distance of 50 feet from the vehicle is prohibited. How do you manage that one if the bikes are sitting out there just running away?
The one thing that we do look at to see if it's intentional, if they're just cruising down, but a lot of times, well, they call it, that's why they call it the thunder run.
Yeah.
And they'll intentionally rev their motors to get their mufflers to rattle, and so there's a difference. So, but a lot of these motorcycles, that's how they're made. So
no, I get that. I just, I have an SDR down at the end of my street, Ralph on Burton, that goes to my private road from my house. Bikes come in there all the time. They'll bring 6, 8 to 12 of them in there. I'll go down and tell them, hey guys, crank them up, get on the road. I'm okay with that. Okay? It's the sitting there idle. It's the gang all kind of gets out of the bar and heads on their way.
Yeah.
My sense is that's a bit unreasonable for neighbors to be able to have. So if they call, we presume an officer is going to say, hey, gang.
the one thing that I even asked Ms. Wyman is just documentation. It helps us out.
Yeah.
And so she has a ring door, a ring bell on her front door. That's just good ways to document things. Unfortunately, we're at the time of in our lives where everything is about documentation.
Yeah.
And so.
Well, hopefully now Brian knows there's a huge problem and he's gonna work with everybody.
Right.
If you have to shut the door, shut the door.
Yeah.
See how easy that was?
Crank the AC up.
Weren't you saying it had to be
Right.
after-
There you go.
All right. So
He closes the door, my sense is bond goes down a lot.
okay, council. So our ordinance is as it is. We're following the ordinance. If council wants to change it, then that's something that we'll need to put on the agenda and move forward. All right, thank you, Chief. We're moving on to discussion item number 4.
And I'm going to recommend we postpone this in the next city council meeting because I think it's appropriate for the new council members to understand the social media dudes don't train that I went.
I think that's a great plan. Okay. So
I
we're
like
gonna
that
postpone
one.
it. Okay, and at this point, we're gonna take a short 5-minute break. Okay. So let's get ready.
Gio, your new Siri.
Okay, and we are back from break. All right, we're moving on to action items. Action item number 1 belongs to city manager.
Approve the second and final reading of ordinance 2024-04-03. An ordinance amending chapter 23, city council to the Alpine Code of Ordinances, amending article 1 in general, amending article 2, rules of procedure, amending article 3, rules of decorum, amending rules, regulations, and guidelines for the city council meetings and procedures.
I need a motion.
I'll move that we approve ordinance 2024-04-03 as presented.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, discussion. City manager, start.
This is just the final reading to the ordinance that we've been working on for a little over 6 months. Some time frame there. This just updates everything that council adheres to for our meetings and provided additional clarification. It restructured our agendas. We are excited to finally have this hopefully approved, and we will move forward. Just as a side note, if this is approved tonight, the deadline for the May 21st council meeting is tomorrow at 5.
So, city secretary, the dates that you put in this packet, are they the same as what you had in the last packet?
Yes.
This information is exactly identical. All right, Councilmember Stokes, Councilmember Rodriguez, Councilmember Nance, Councilmember Sedate, Councilmember Stevens.
Let me revise it. I'm gonna be out here.
Yes, please. All right, so seeing no more comments, let's vote. All in favor to approve this ordinance 2024-04-03, raise your right hand. Okay, city secretary, it passed unanimously with all council members voting for it. Moving on to action item number 2, this is Councilmember Stokes.
Here's the second final reading of ordinance 2024-04-04, an ordinance authorizing the vacation, abandonment, and sale of approximately 0.128 acres of city property, being the undeveloped alley lying between lots 1 and 10, block 71, original town site between South First and South Second Street in the city of Alpine, Brewster County, Texas. Authorizing the city manager to execute a deed without warranty, directing that the funds from the sale of the city's interest be deposited in the general fund for the purpose of street improvements, providing for terms and conditions of such thereof.
I need a motion.
Make the motion to approve this as presented.
I need a second.
Second.
Discussion, Councilmember Stokes.
After 71 years, it's good for the city to get rid of them. They haven't ever maintained it. They've done nothing with it because they didn't know it was theirs. I do think that this brings up the matter of, God, if we could ever figure out all these little alleys and all this little stuff, sell them, get rid of them. I would like to see nonprofits get them for nothing after 71 years, but if it's illegal, it's illegal. That's all I have to say.
Councilmember Stevens.
My only comment is I think it's the right thing to do. I got a call today, says, why is the city giving away property? I said, well, that property's been covered by a building for the last 71 years. It's high time we allowed it to go forward.
Councilmember Sandate.
Where's this located at?
Through the community center.
Oh, okay,
Goes through the building.
okay.
I just want to make a point. They're actually purchasing it for 3,000.
Yeah.
I agree, yeah, push it, yeah, no, but I mean, in terms of time to move forward, you cannot literally drive on that alley. If you do, you're gonna run over a building.
Okay.
Councilmember Nance.
No comment.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
No comment.
All right, seeing no more comments, let's vote. All in favor of approving, please raise your right hand. City secretary, it passes unanimously for ordinance 2024-04-04. All council members voted in favor. Moving on to action item number 3, this belongs to city manager.
Approve the first reading of ordinance 2024-05-01. An ordinance approving rezone application 2024-04-01. Amending the official zoning map of the city by rezoning the property located at 1702 East Avenue H and legally described as Thomas Derrick Addition Block 20, lots 3 through 11, lots 15 through 20, and lots 21 and 22, located in Alpine, Brewster County, Texas, as the same appears in the map of plat records on file in the office of the county clerk of Brewster County, Texas, rezoning the subject property from R4 Mobile Home District to C1 Neighborhood Commercial District. The property ID of this subject property is 12816. The record property owner is Vicky R. Vega. The Planning and Zoning Commission has recommended denial of this application.
Okay, I need a motion.
I make a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 2024-05-01.
I need a second. I need it.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? Start with city manager, please.
This is a rezone application from an R4 mobile home district to a C1 neighborhood commercial district for a taxidermy cleaning service. They were inspected by code enforcement, in which they found they were no longer zoned to C1 and had been zoned in R4. They started the application process after discussions with their council member. This was presented to the Planning and Zoning Committee on April 22nd, 2024, in which they denied the application. They felt that it was considered spot zoning. Please be advised that the governing body by ordinance must approve the affirmative vote of at least 3/4 of all members to approve the application.
Can you talk to us about the legalities of spot zoning? And what it is, where we sit on that?
So we did reach out to our attorneys to inquire, because it currently states that council may bring this before themselves in order to rezone for the benefit of the city. There has been some discussion regarding the ability for council to do that. The state outlines specific guidelines in which a council should consider when looking at the rezoning process. We did outline them in the excuse me, in the backup documentation. The 4 guidelines consist of: 1, the law demands that an approved zoning plan should be respected and not altered for the special benefit of the landowner when the change will cause substantial detriment to the surrounding lands or serve no substantial public purpose. 2, the nature and degree of an adverse impact upon neighboring lands is important. Lots that are rezoned in a way that is substantially inconsistent with the zoning of the surrounding area, whether more or less restrictive, are likely to be invalid. 4, another factor to consider is the sustainability or is the suitability or unsuitability of the tract use as it is presently zoned. The size, the shape, and location of the lot may render a tract unusable or even confiscatory as zoned. The amendment must bear a substantial relationship to the public health, safety, morals, or general welfare. However, the rezoning ordinances may be justified if the substantial public need exists, even though it results in the landowner's windfall.
And we must meet all 4 of those.
You should meet all 4, yes.
Okay, so currently in the information that you provided, it is illegal to spot zone. Unless it meets all 4 of those.
It's illegal unless you're meeting the qualifications. That this is part of the discussion. Council does have the ability to rezone a property if it meets within the 4.
Councilmember Stevens?
So I thought we had an ordinance on the books that allows, so this is trying to be a home business. I get it. Gonna be very infrequently used. Why can they not apply for a special use permit to operate a home business and do this work?
I believe the
Not an acceptable.
it's not an acceptable use. The special doesn't allow this. It's for a taxidermy.
So it doesn't allow for taxidermy. So in my view, that could be an oversight that council could fix to say we can allow it for special use.
That is a consideration that council could take, yes.
Because in my view, we have a number of businesses, home businesses in residential areas. And we put a provision in a number of years ago that allowed people to operate home businesses because they live there. You don't have high traffic. In my mind, this would think that would fit in this category. I think when I was put in place, we never contemplated someone open a taxidermy place.
But they're not doing taxidermy, they're just cleaning, right? Am I right?
European mounting, which is just the
The
head.
head.
Okay, yeah, so it's not tax. So my view is, yeah,
So
we.
is there animals to dispose of or any, I mean,
So that's what initiated this conversation. There was a complaint that they weren't properly disposing of the material. And so they're trying to correct that, which led into the long out process of they're not zoned for.
Okay, we have our code enforcement officer
How are
here.
they
Can you
gonna
come and
correct it?
speak on, can you come and speak for just a moment on this business and any violations or anything you may have?
Yeah, so this was a ordeal before I got hired on with the city. I've seen the pictures of what was on the premise from David with the Texas Park or with game wardens, Texas Park Wildlife. And also what was in the dumpster. The only problem with doing a special use permit, like me personally, I don't really care, do what you want on your property, but it would need to be zoned properly because of the fact of they would need a grease trap for the renderings and stuff and cleaning the skulls. And then potentially a commercial dumpster if they're gonna utilize the dumpsters. So,
And have there been any violations, any complaints, anything?
I don't believe there was any complaints, and when it was, there's like back and forth between it, from what I saw, there was a little bit in the dumpster, which would be a violation, but, other than that, there was nothing else.
No health
There was
hazards or?
inspections. No,
And
No.
this group
And-
is compliant with the state of Texas.
right,
Parks and
with Texas Parks and
With their
Wildlife
permit.
through their permitting and what they're supposed to do. So they're good to go as far as that. The only thing they would have to do if y'all approved it is get with us and put in a grease trap. From my understanding, when I talked to Crystal during the P and Z meeting, she's already been in touch with Ronnie Davis through Ron Pack. He's licensed to install them and everything for them, so they got it lined out and they're ready to go to be in compliance if y'all approve it.
That they're willing to do everything to become compliant so
Right.
that they're not violating the code. They didn't realize that they weren't compliant until it was.
Yeah, because it was apparently commercial at one point and they owned the entire block, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they had said they own the entire block already as well. So there wouldn't really be a huge issue with the smell. And then I believe it's family that lives right across the street as well. So I think we'd be all right with the smell and whatnot, as far as that. From boiling the heads. Yeah, specify.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess the question is, does it meet the 4 qualifications?
I wouldn't say, I'm against rezoning. Like if we did anything, I think special use permit or something like that. So the motion on the table to rezone from R4 to C2, C1A. I'm against that because C1A, if we rezone, opens it up to a laundry, bank, barber, beauty shop, billiard, pool hall. I don't think anybody wants a pool hall over there. Just kidding, guys. I don't like pool either, but, so I'm against the rezone on that.
Councilmember Rodriguez,
I agree. If we do anything, it should be a special permit.
Councilmember Stokes,
That's one thing to be willing to be compliant with everything. They need to act. Start up.
Council would have to update the current zoning for R4 to allow for special.
did I take one back? Any other discussion? All right, let's vote. All in favor of approving the rezone application for 2024-04-01, please raise your right hand. Okay, City Secretary, 1 Councilmember Sandate voted to approve. All opposed, please raise your right hand. City Secretary, the rest of the council voted to oppose.
I just want to, I'm happy to work with, Robert and, to come back with a recommended change of special use permit.
Okay.
But it's one of those, you got property owners wanting to comply on all those things. We got to give that latitude. I said, I don't think it's ever contemplated that this sort of business would go into. We never thought about this for special use.
Right. So City Secretary, ordinance 2024-05-01 failed. All right, moving on to action item number 4, City Manager.
Approve the first reading of ordinance 2024-05-02. An ordinance approving rezone application 2024-04-02. Amending the official zoning map of the city by rezoning the property located at 601 South Walker Street and legally described as lots number 3, 4, 5, block 49, Hancock Addition, south of the railroad, to the city of Alpine, Brewster County, Texas. Rezoning the subject property from R4 Mobile Home District to C1 Neighborhood Commercial District. The property ID of the subject property is 10842. The record property owner is Melinda Vega. The Planning and Zoning Commission has recommended denial of this application.
I need a motion. Okay, I need a second.
Second.
Okay, discussion, city manager.
Sorry, I'm making the notes.
That's fine. Take your time.
This is a rezoning of a subject property from an R4 mobile home to a District C1 neighborhood district for a art studio. The Planning and Zoning Commission did meet on April 22nd and unanimously voted to deny the application. This does require at least 3/4 of all members required to overrule the recommendation. This is in line with the same reasoning as the prior application. The commission felt that it was a spot zone.
And it didn't meet the 4 qualifications.
That's a discussion with council. I don't answer that. You get to make that determination
I was just wondering what planning and zoning had said.
that they felt it was a spot zone.
All right, Councilmember Rodriguez.
Was it not a bar at one time? So was it, has the zoning changed? Or when did the zoning change from what it, wasn't it a commercial?
It wasn't commercial in the 2000s. The previous owners, or the parents rather, they came to the council wanting to change it officially, and the council denied it. That was around 2000.
So it's never been commercial.
So I think it was just kind of grandfathered in, I don't think it was ever officially commercial. As far as what we can find, that's the only thing we can find. It's in 2000, they requested it, and the council denied it.
And then it listed, you said something about it being an art studio?
That's what they specifically
was-
put in the application, that's what they'd like to do with it.
I was trying to reboot my phone. Sorry. Did we not get an email stating a letter somewhere there that it listed 2 or 3 different things, not just an art studio?
I believe they indicated a possible art studio, coffee shop.
So we're opening it up to we don't know what, because
That's
It
the
would-
letter. The application specifically said specific use of the property is an art studio.
but that just makes me wonder, once we,
What they're gonna do.
once we get it, it's open so they can do whatever they want. And they're already stating that there could be a possibility of 3 different things. Thank you.
Councilmember Nance.
We've had a bunch of these come across our desk. The one thing I was gonna say is Skeletons, even when you look at the zone map right there, like Skeletons is C1, I think. And at some point, that had to be spot zone or grandfathered in or something, right? Because there's pink there and it's surrounded by green. So at some point, something like that happened. And even we see then when catty corner to that lot we spoke of earlier at Avenue H and Walker Street, right there where that commercial stuff is. So it looks like it's somewhat coming south to encroach on that residential R4 area there. But I mean, the practical part of me says out of all of them, this would be the one that makes the most sense to actually okay with, because it would open that road up to some development and everything else like that, even if it was C1A style stuff, light commercial that abuts residential stuff. But I mean, the principal part of me just says, that it definitely doesn't fit into it's a spot zone.
Councilmember Sandate.
Well, that Flamenco bar, it was open for many years. It had different bar managers. If I can recall, maybe 10 years straight. And I don't know how come it was his own commercial on all those years. So,
That was the Flamingo Bar.
yeah.
Now you know what it is.
I also note there's a ton of cars behind that place. I mean, I'm just looking on the most recent map, and I know it's the most recent map because Skelton's place is on there. And I just look and say right behind it, there's a bazillion cars. I wonder what that is zoned behind it.
Well, the block before is also the families, if I'm not mistaken. It used to be a garage, a gas station grocery store. And
Yeah.
then the land in between, if I'm not mistaken, is somebody else's.
Yep. I'm with Darren but this goes back to the discussion we're having a little bit during the break. Boy, getting a comprehensive zoning game plan going forward, because that is, although it shows up on the map here, South Walker, that's Highway 118. And if you think if there's gonna be a commercial place anywhere along there, that's where it ought to be. Because I look at, you got Skelton's down there, you got the new restaurant that opened right there at the corner of Gallego and Walker, you got the old gas station there. Then it sounds like the old Flamingo Bar. You continue down the road, you eventually get to Blue Water. And then you got Bam Auto on the other side of the street, and then you head out of town south. Time we go to our comprehensive zoning game plan.
I just heard budget item.
Yeah, yes, we need to do that.
Yeah, because we gotta help people understand, where do we think we're going?
Yes, where do we want this growth?
Yeah, so as we rotate through, there's a consistent process, so people will make decisions about where they're gonna go buy without, here's what I'm buying into.
Megan, in doing a special permit, are we pushing it? I mean, is that specific? I mean, it's okay 100%. We're not pushing to where we're at the edge of, well, it might not be okay.
No, they're allowable. They're allowable with, of course, their direction of what we're doing with them. I think that goes back to Mr. Stevens' comment with, these are property owners and we're letting them decide what to do with their property, but still staying within the bounds and needs of what we're requiring for our development.
So was it a business prior to this? Weren't they renting apartments or was it something?
Like directly prior, it was a short-term rent.
Okay.
Oh,
Recently.
It's been a multitude of things since my tenure living in Elton.
I would say too, there's one property that separates that one from a commercial lot. That one, and it's Martin Villarreal, that separates that, which looks like an undeveloped lot, which makes this one so hard to really, this one makes sense. If there ever was a zone to make sense, a rezone, this would be it. But it doesn't abide by that, it doesn't pass spot zone muster.
And at the zoning and planning meeting, Jessica stood up and said that she had recommended to the owner, instead of going this route, which is spot zoning, and it has to be those 4 qualifications, that they should talk to that property owner and see if they'd be willing to rezone that to commercial. And then that way it would be commercial. It wouldn't be spot zone where we have to meet the 4 criteria. That's a good point.
And I'd also like to know that once again, in our emails, there were quite a few people that were against this from the neighboring area.
And this is where
That were
Yes.
against it, yes.
Yes, zoning and planning.
She did get a letter for a few, but more were against it than were.
This goes back to formalizing, if we're gonna move with certain directions of commercial, residential, having that plan in place, because the lot between getting them to rezone, they may not really care one way or the other. They're not gonna invest to do it. But the city could look at the direction of our growth and try to develop commercial areas, because we are semi-landlocked, and we don't have a big commercial footprint.
It is imperative that we get that plan. Does that start with council, or do we task zoning and planning to do that?
So you guys technically had already tasked planning and zoning. I personally have it as a goal for myself. We already have enough of the background and supporting information to bring in a third party to assist us. This would not be something we could do on our own. We would bring in a vendor or a consulting agency, provide them all the data we have. There would be a huge public impact as well, because the public would need to input. We would coincide it with updating our zoning, which would have to have the public notice as well if we were to change someone's zone, and the explanation of why. But it would also give us the footprint for, up to about a 10-year plan of the direction we want to go. It also ties back into my second goal for economic development.
That's perfect. So that's why it's a
That's the
budget
next
item.
meeting.
City manager, city secretary.
I just wanted to note that it looks like that council in 2000 were also dealing with some of the issues that we've been dealing with, because the minutes state that the Aguilars were stating that that zoning was changed without their knowledge. So they were dealing with that. Citizens were opposed to the selling of alcohol at the time, and ultimately they didn't get a second on the motion.
Okay.
And that was the same issue we had with the prior action item. It was rezoned, it was zoned commercial, rezoned residential. No we don't know the notifications, council approved in 13 the new zone map. So there's a lot to, and it would be a huge impact on the community, a lot of community engagement, a lot of notices. But I think that if we want to move in a positive direction, we need to give it to you.
Any other discussion? Okay, let's vote to approve the first reading of ordinance 2024-05-02. All in favor of approving this ordinance for the rezone application, please raise your right hand. Okay, City Secretary, we have one council member who has voted to approve, Councilmember Sandate. All of those who are opposed to approving this ordinance, please raise your right hand. City Secretary, the remaining council members voted to oppose ordinance 2024-05-02 and ordinance approving rezone application. So the motion failed, ordinance failed. All right, moving on to action item number 5. This belongs to city manager.
Approve the interlocal corporation contract between the Texas Department of Public Safety and the Alpine Municipal Court to continue participation in the failure to appear program.
I need a motion.
Make the motion to approve.
I need a second.
Second.
Okay, discussion, city manager.
This is I guess you could say kind of a technical, everyday kind of thing. So the city of Alpine currently has an agreement with the Texas Department of Public Safety through what we call OmniBase. OmniBase is the only company that is authorized by the state of Texas to administer the failure to appear. As part of the court program, individuals who fail to appear to court, they're issued an FTA. When they fail to appear again, we are allowed to put them in what we call OmniBase. OmniBase is a statewide registry that actually provides additional, hey, you have a ticket. This is also the trigger when someone goes to renew their driver's license. If they have outstanding tickets, they will be notified that they can't renew until they get them cleaned up. They have the ability to contact the local organization, which for us would be the city of Alpine. In this past legislation, it was updated. The contract is in here and outlines what's responsibility of the city, which is of course to provide all the information to OmniBase and keep it updated. And then what is responsible for OmniBase and Texas Department of Public Safety. This is a routine item. I do encourage that we continue with the program because it is beneficial.
Okay, Councilmember Stokes.
Well, it's a good program. It's utilized in all we need.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
We should follow through with it.
Councilmember Nance.
No, the only question I have is how much does it cost?
It doesn't actually cost us anything. The OmniBase fees are added to the ticket itself. And so we collect those as part of the court costs, and then we submit to OmniBase their portion, and we get to keep a portion for ourselves.
Thank you.
Councilmember Sandate.
Keep it.
Councilmember Stevens.
Good.
All in favor, please raise your right hand. All right, City Secretary, we approve the interlocal corporation contract between the Texas Department of Public Safety and the Alpine Municipal Court unanimously. All council members voted in favor. Okay, action item number 6, city manager.
This one's exciting. Accept the selected bid response to request for proposal 2024-04-01 to Evergreen Solutions LLC for a classification and compensation study for the city of Alpine and authorize the city manager to execute the contract.
I need a motion.
Make the motion to approve the proposal as presented.
I need a second.
I'll second.
All right, city manager discussion.
So one of the items that the council had requested that I go after and look for, that I tried to do on my own, and then Gio told me really try to do this yourself, is a compensation study and classification study for the whole entire city of Alpine. The city of Alpine Council did allocate $50,000 toward this project. It did take me some time. I had to work with multiple other cities to kind of get an idea of what to ask for, what to look for. I had a very narrow approach to it at the beginning until I got to visit with the other agencies and had a very wide approach. We did follow all of the procurement processes and the objectives that were listed in the study, and I'm going to read them out for you guys. Is to complete a classification and compensation study of public employees who are provided equitable services, determine if changes in existing position descriptions are needed, and if so, update or create uniform job descriptions, prepare a comparative analysis that identifies the city of Alpine's competitive position in a comparative labor market, including comparative city employers, provide a recommendation for total salaries and benefits, including the total compensation package, and including a recommended compensation policy. As part of the recommended compensation policy, include policies addressing compensation for promotion, demotion, certifications, and on-call. Clearly outline promotional opportunities and provide recognizable compensation growth. Establish a minimum hourly rate of 15 an hour and address compression. Prepare a pay structure or pay ladder that provides clear direction on employee compensation. Prepare a recommendation for compensation rules and policies, maintain competitiveness, ensure equity and position for the organization for future development. We asked this as part of the RFP. We did have 4 companies respond: Lunt Consulting, Evergreen, Gallagher Benefit Services, and PayPoint HR. Myself, our HR coordinator, and the city secretary did review all of the RFPs. We did score them, giving Evergreen the highest score. The reason why we went with that was we really enjoyed looking at their RFP. It included not only a significant amount of municipal experience, but for both small and large cities. The price tag, of course, was a benefit. They estimated $34,500 to be able to complete this. The time frame for completion is an estimated 4 months. It had an outline structure of the tasks and how they were going to complete them. Becky pointed out, who's our HR coordinator, the use of the software and training to be provided to the HR staff. So they will actually provide training after this is done to be able to continue with this type of process. The big one for me, all of them included it. I just really enjoyed Evergreen's presentation of the employee engagement. This is a hands-on study. This is the employee's opportunity to provide feedback. They do they do employee surveys. They'll do interviews. They'll reach out and speak with everyone from the lowest level to the highest level, which was really important. The training to implement and maintain the compensation and classification structure. They did provide a sample report. The RFP or their response is in the packet. And the last one that we really enjoyed was just the additional year of technical assistance. So they're going to provide a software, access to their software at the end of this, free of charge, and then up to a year to be able to utilize it. I'm really looking forward. This has kind of been my pet project. The undertaking of it was a lot larger than I thought I could handle myself. So having 4 people come back and actually say, hey, we can help you. This is what we can do. This doesn't affect just, what we currently have, but it's our future as well. We get those salaries to where they should be. We get the job classifications. We look at the compensation. I don't think our employees and the public fully understand how much additional we provide the employees, especially when you're looking at retirement and life insurance and health insurance and paid holidays and the additional certification pays and things that go with it. So having a company come in, I'm really excited that they can hopefully get it all put together. And this will be what we help to build our budget for next year.
Excellent. Councilmember Stokes?
So will they come out here and help? Or all this will be done? Will there ever be a one-on-one with an employee?
So that's part of the contractual, we'll reach that type of agreement. How much do we want it to be in person? Because there are the additional fees for them to travel out here. A lot of things have changed remotely. There's pros and cons to it, but they will have, you know, the anonymous employee survey where they'll send it out to everyone. They'll probably do some Zoom or Teams meetings. We did outline in the scope, and they did indicated that they would provide a presentation to council. So yes and no. Yes, they may come out here. They may not just come out here maybe once or twice.
I just know some people aren't comfortable doing a Zoom or doing a on the phone or filling out a piece of paper. You run the gamut of employees, some of them.
So this is a big team effort. My goal is this Friday, when we are utilizing our day for appreciation with the employees, to have a little meeting in the middle of it to let them know that we're moving forward with them.
Sneaky, Megan. Feed them.
Perfect time.
I know.
Perfect timing. That, you know, we're gonna encourage them to participate because they're gonna take all this
It
information.
benefits them. That's, this is for them. This is what we've talked about since I got on here 3 years ago. Pay them more. They're out doing the work. I'm not.
Councilmember Rodriguez?
Have we budgeted for this? And if so, when are you wanting to get this started?
So as soon as council, if you approve it tonight, it will start. I'll notify them and we'll move forward with the contract, and we budgeted 50,000 for this.
Councilmember Nance?
You know, a bunch of questions.
Oh, boy.
Got to keep Judy here a little longer. On our last meeting. I saw they had a ton of references. Do they have a Texas office?
I do not know that. I don't believe so.
Okay. They had like 40 pages of references of everyone in Texas.
Yep.
They are the company that, while I was trying to figure this out on my own, was the one recommended by every city I spoke.
Then, so this is the plan. Is implementation going to occur in next year's budget as far as trying to get everyone to 15?
Yes, that's the goal.
Perfect. And some of the things that it looks like, I'm just notching these off. You said $15 per hour. Is it going to help to solve these issues? $15 per hour, compression, job descriptions, and pay for certifications?
Yes, so we do ask that the compensation be included, which is all compensation, certifications, any additional benefits, the on-call policy. Because these are all different forms of comp.
That makes sense. Then as well, I'm assuming they're going to be comparing to people in our area as far as, or is it like our comps? Or do you think they'll be state, regional?
So part of what they explain in that is they will compare to our area, but also within the state. And then I would like to also provide them some city names and areas that I'd like them to also look at. It's hard to compare to like Pecos.
Wow,
Please don't
does Pecos
compare
have more
us
money
to
than
that.
us? Last question I had, then you mentioned, compensation is a lot of things. It's your health insurance, it's retirement packages. Will council have a feedback on any of these things? I know sometimes when you have workers that have been there a while, or maybe if they were older workers, health insurance is more important to those people than, someone that's $20, when pay is more important. Will all those things, do you think, be restructured as far as health, retirement packages? Are there any untouchables?
So retirement's untouchable. That's regulated by state legislation. Health insurance is really not something we can modify unless we reduce what we're already providing. We do provide full coverage. I know that I have reached out in regards to if we only provided it to some and we provided the value to others. The process to get that implemented, it'd be too much for our city. We're not a Fortune 500. We don't have 1,000+ employees. So ideally, the cash value and what we're providing are very significantly different. So it probably won't affect our health insurance, and then our life insurance won't affect either. But it will affect our differential pay and how we actually pay out some of our certifications, suggestions on things that we could possibly add, how we manage them. Currently, certifications are handled differently depending on which department you're in. Maybe putting some consistency to that across the board. Of course, the on-call, making that consistent across the board. Those are the big things.
Will it be everything that deals with the dollar? So will it also go into things like work-life balance, maternity leave, things like that?
We will provide them our employee handbook so that they can see all of that as well.
Was
So
there-
we currently do provide maternity leave for both the mother and the father. It's just not. That is a federal.
That was all the questions I had.
That's not very nice.
Well,
You
they
can go
can
take
use-
care of your newborn.
They
Or
can
you
use
buy
all their,
groceries.
they can use all their vacation and sick leave. They can exhaust that. It also coincides with FMLA. FMLA does not require that we provide.
It's the same for teaching.
But at the same time, while they're gone, we're still covering the employee's health insurance. So we're still paying for their benefits.
And from my viewpoint in this is an opportunity for us to actually look at the employees and see what pain points they have for us to find staff and retain those staff. And it may not just be a dollar. So if this can actually encompass more than just pay, I think that's a beneficial thing.
I hope to get a structure for the training, to be able to promotion, to be able to move them up. Unfortunately, the history of Alpine is I like you, I give you a raise. You're not my bad side today, I don't. It's unfortunate, that's just how it happened. We've slowly been restructuring to not allow that, which is hard because, you know, directors are used to that type of allowance. This hopefully will put in that procedure that will say, if I get promoted, I know I'm gonna get X amount. It's not gonna be I promote you, I give you $5, I promote you, I give you $1. That there will be that complete structure. But also the training that's necessary to be able to.
Okay. Councilmember Stevens?
So, one, I applaud you for getting this out. Yeah, which is great to see, Megan. Consistent with Darren's comment, and you're already sensitive to it. When I look at page 4-2, so chapter 4, page 2, it talks about market peers under exhibit 4A, which you're already aware of. I would not consider any of them to be our peers. I mean, so just to give you all, when you look at the details, so Austin Electric, Addison, Allen, Arlington, Austin, Carrollton, Dallas, Fort Worth, Frisco, Grand Prairie, Grapevine, Irving, Louisville, McKinney, Mesquite, Plano, Richardson, Sugar Land, Dallas County, Denton County. I remember I look at that and said, boy.
Well, they need to come out here.
Yeah,
That's need out.
That's up near the Dallas
Rock down
area.
south.
Yeah.
So helping that, I think, will be one of the most important thing you need to get them focused in the area in terms of what is market. Because otherwise, they're gonna come in with the cost of living adjustments could be huge, because that's under exhibit 4B. You just gotta get them oriented. Once you get that, I think they've done all the right stuff. Please, you're gonna come talk to council. You might consider having a, because they've got the Gantt chart in there, what they're gonna do, you might consider maybe a halfway update. You know,
You'll get more than half of it. I do want to make sure that, because it's also good for the public to understand as we go through the budget process.
Yeah.
I mean, this is gonna have an impact.
Yeah.
But it's time, and to be honest, I'm just really excited to actually see this get
Yep.
completed for not only our current employees, but everyone we hire. Because you guys have all kind of said, you need to hire someone, you need to retain them, you need to, but at the same time, it's like, well, what do we pay them, and when do we promote them, and how do we get the directors and the managers to be able to have that same process? So doesn't matter where I'm at in the city, I know I'm gonna get treated fairly, and I know I'm gonna get promoted, or I'm gonna get demoted, or I'm gonna get certification. And I just think it will help create that better culture and work.
I just, as an example, SCADA analyst, midpoint, $106,000. Seems a bit steep for SCADA.
Well, you are underpaid.
You didn't have to tell us.
So, yeah, but I think so, I think about it.
Yeah. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, all council in favor for accepting the bid for request for proposal 24-04-01, please raise your right hand. City Secretary, it passes unanimously.
Thank you guys so much.
All right, council member comments. Judy.
Gonna start here?
Yeah.
Well, I'd just like to thank all my supporters while I was up here, even the non-supporters. Some of them actually ended up liking me. We went through a lot. We lost a member, we lost EMS and it was stressful. We went through many stressful times up here. And the people that like me are always gonna like me, and the people that don't still don't. And, no, that's just part of life. I'm nearly swayed Rick. And you know, that's a big deal.
I think you did sway
Look at Rick.
I think he likes you.
And I do want to let everybody know, especially Philip sitting out here, they need a refrigerator up here. Do you not have any extra money or?
No.
They do.
Friday.
They have nothing.
They have nothing.
It's just the kitchen's just got food everywhere.
So anyway,
Alrighty.
I'll be in the audience. I'll have my 3 minutes of fame. It'll be fun.
Thank you. Councilmember Rodriguez.
I too would like to thank the citizens of Ward 2 for giving me the opportunity to serve them. For the many people, even those that weren't in Ward 2, who were always there for support. Special thanks to Councilor Stevens, who from the very beginning of my 4 years was there to educate, help, and guide, and was there through my 4-year tenure. For anybody coming on, lean on your older counselors. They've got the experience, and most of them are willing to help. So thank you all.
Councilmember Nance.
Just gonna say, it's been a pleasure to work with Martine, Chris, and Judy.
I'm
Getting
not
to know you
going
guys and
anywhere.
everything else. I think we got a great council.
Absolutely. Councilmember Sandate.
It was a pleasure working with all of you. Especially Gio, because he got me out of love.
Yes.
Thank you.
Councilmember Stevens.
Yeah, I want to thank, Judy, Chris and Martine for being up here. These are selfless jobs. And it was very clear by the number of people who have not run for council positions. My fundamental view is we live in a democracy. We have a responsibility for giving back. Those who choose to serve is about giving back. It's not about the financial reward. It's about the opportunity to represent people. And I think the sharing of diverse opinions and perspective is so critical because we may not always agree, but all of us learn something. We all bring something to the table. We all learn something from each other. And to me, that's the power of what this is all about. So I want to thank you all for being up here. And do look forward to continued engagement and involvement. As we look at, the participation we have in the audience, not large. Because, a lot of people watch the videotape, and they'll play back from there, but thanks. And really appreciate all the engagement that people have and looking forward to continued engagement on or off council, because that's the value we bring to the table. So thank you.
Once again, I want to say thank you.
I'll see you at lunch.
Yes. Yeah, it has been a pleasure. And I think this council did phenomenal things. And I look forward to you continuing to come to meetings and to doing your 3 minutes and giving us ideas and suggestions. The city runs best when we have all the diverse opinions come to the table and share their ideas and thoughts. Thank you. All right, and with that, the meeting is adjourned. Yay!
Not confetti.
Yes. Yes. Yes.